Testament Bays. It's about 9 lines down. There's a star in my Gemara. It starts with the word Itmar. Itmar means that it's a statement of Amirayim. This is a machlekes Amirayim here that's usually quoted after an Itmar. It's a compound word. It, Amar. It means there is, and Amar. It has been said. Has been stated. And what's been stated? It goes like this. Nira mi b'fnim v'shavim mi b'chutz. If I have a mavi that I can see from the inside, but I can't see from the outside. There's a picture in Rashi. Let me get the book open. We'll use that. We're going to look now. Okay, the first case we're looking at is picture 107. It's nirmi bifnim. What happens is, if you're inside the mavai, you can see that there's a wall that's blocking the entranceway. But if you're outside the mavai, then it looks like, well, the angle that they put it on, it's possible to think that this is just one long wall. That base there is just one long wall. So Rashi is showing you in that picture that you have 3.5 walls, because the outside doesn't necessarily tell you that there's an inside corner there that's being blocked. Whatever the case is, that's considered a lechi. That's good. That mabi is closed off. What about the other way? From inside the mabi, you can't tell. This is like a letter tough. If you look in the next case, that's picture 109 over here, which is this. When you're inside the mavi, you don't see anything. Turns out that there happens to be something at this edge right here that's sticking out, and it's sticking outward. So what's the din over there? It's nir mebachutz v'shavah min b'fnim. From the inside, it's shava, it's flush. So that's a machlekes Reb Chia and Reb Shimon bar Rebbe. It's a machlekes between two students of Rebbe. One of them was his son, Reb Chia and Reb Shimon bar Rebbe. Two students of Rebbe argue about this. One says it is considered, and one says it's not. You know, the Betzel Ranchberg on the bottom, I believe he lived in Prague, came from Ranchberg. He says that the pictures in Rashi are all mixed up. What happens is the printer didn't put them with numbers. He just wrote kazer, like this. And then there's a picture there. And as the printing gets done in the Gemara, so the pictures get moved around. And which picture he meant when he says kazer, like this, that wasn't so clear. So he says to look at the Karban Asano. Karban Asano is a commentary on the Rush. So in that, just this 1 second. In those pictures, then you get all of the, you see it more clearly, or we have it in our book over here. Okay. So we have a machlekes between Reb Chia and Reb Shimon. We don't know who says what, but this is regarding a mavi that's shaped like a tuf, the letter tuf. The lechi is sticking outward. Let it be proven that Reb Chia is the one that says that this is considered a lechi. The Tani Reb Chia taught, let's say I have one wall that's going in more than its opposite wall. That we'll see in picture 110 over here. See that? This is probably nearer mi bachutz. Can't really see this from the inside. Here, it just looks straight when you're in the mavi. Or whichever the case is, whether you can see it from the inside or whether you can only see it from the outside, neither mishum lachi, it's considered a lachi. Very clear. Reb Chia taught this brisa. It must be that that's how he holds. He holds that it's considered a lechi that you can only see from outside the alleyway is considered a good lechi. To stayim, let it be settled that that's Reb Chia's opinion. So the machlekes Reb Chia and Reb Shimon bar Rebbe, we have who says it. The Gemara says like this. We learned yesterday, at the end of yesterday's Gemara, we learned that Rabbi Yochanan held, Ravin taught in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that Niri mi b'chutz v'shaved mi b'pnim is not a lechi. If you can only see the post, the lechi, the post at the entranceway to the alley, you can only see it from outside, it's not good. The Gemara asks like this. Rabbi Yochanan mili shmi aleha. Rabbi Yochanan didn't hear the brisa that Rabbi Chia just taught us. Rabbi Chia was one of the people that collected the brises. And Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Shia, they collected these Mishnah type sayings and they put it together. And maybe it's the Tosefta that we have. So Rabbi Yochanan must have known this, but nevertheless he ignores it. So Ela Shmi Alei V'Lei Savila. He knew about the brisa, he just doesn't hold like that brisa. Reb Chia Nami Lei Savila. So how do you know that Reb Chia holds like it just because he quoted it? Maybe he doesn't hold of it either. If Reb Yochanan knows about it but doesn't hold of it, maybe Reb Chia also. The Gemara says, "Hi, Maya, 1 second. Like slow down." It says like this. Hi, Maya Lino means this what? It says Bishlam Reb Yochanan Lei Savila. I get the first part. Reb Yochanan doesn't hold of it. That's why he didn't teach it. But what are you telling me, Reb Chia? Why did he teach it if he doesn't hold of it? It's a problem. So it must be that Reb Chia holds of this brisa, which is good for us. That means that Reb Chia is the one that says that if you can see the lechi from the outside, it's good.
I guess it would depend where you're standing in the mavi, because if you're standing towards the edge where the wall goes in like that, you would probably see it.
Right. That's an important point. It's important. But what we're saying is even if you can't see it, it's still going to be acceptable according to Reb Chia. So I believe that's going to be the halacha on the next page. Let's see. So Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna. Rabba bar Rav Huna says, "Nir mi b'chutz v'shaved mi b'fnim nidim mishum lachi." Very good. Rabba bar Rav Huna says this. Exactly like Reb Chia. If you can see the lechi from the outside, you can see the post from outside the alleyway, it's considered as a mark, as a line that tells you where the end of the mavi is, or maybe it's I don't know if a lechi is considered a mechitza. I don't think anyone says it. It's considered a hecker. Right? Amar Rabba.
Rabbi Smith?
Yeah.
I'm a little confused. I thought we'd learn back on, maybe it was Gimel or Daled. There was a machlekes between Rab Shimon and the Chachamim about whether the purpose is to be a hecker or to actually create a domain, change the domain.
Yeah. Was that by a kaira?
The picture you showed, I don't see how that. If standing, and I also thought we'd learn that it was for the benefit of the people inside, not in the Rishus HaRabim.
Right.
So if you can only see this lachi for this, whatever it is, from outside, I don't see how.
I see what you're saying.
What it gets you.
Right. My first thought is that yesterday we learned about that what does it look like to the people outside? Remember, we were learning about the area of the lechi itself. Let's say that the lechi is a hecker. Then that's a problem. Because how does it work? How does it work? It's supposed to be telling the people where to stop. The people can't even see it. Yeah. I don't know the answer. Let's say it makes a different domain. It's not a full wall, but it makes a different domain. It makes it like a different rishus. Then that's fine. Then that could work. That could work. Do you want to say maybe this is machlekes, what the lechi does? That's an interesting point. Maybe you can learn it like that. I don't know.
Thank you.
Are there any notes in the comments? Anyone have a Gemara that like elaborates on nirim mibachutz v'shavim mibifnim? How that changes the status of the mavi? Yeah, I'll have to look it up. Let's continue here. Amar Rabba. Rabba says, I'm not sure when it says Amar Rabba after we just had a Rabba bar Rav Huna, if it's a follow-up of Rabba bar Rav Huna, or if it's a different Rabba bar Nachmani. Let's assume it's Rabba bar Nachmani. Rabba says, based on the statement of Rabba bar Rav Huna, he says that nir mi b'chutz v'shavim mi b'fnim is considered a lechi. It means it's visible from the outside, but not from the inside. It's considered a lechi. It's considered a good post, and the mavi is you're able to carry in there. We have a question from our Gemara. It's a Mishnah later on. We quoted it before. We have a small courtyard. That the wall of the small courtyard is broken. It's entirely open into a larger courtyard. So the halacha over there was the large courtyard is mutter without an eruv chatzeris. Let's take a look at a picture. But the small courtyard is not. I have the pictures right here. This is throwing us off. Okay, ignore the details of this. But here's the narrow courtyard in the center. And then we have the wider courtyard on the outside. Ignore the details of what's going on over there with those lines and everything. Well, that will come to in a moment. So what we say here is that when I'm inside the courtyard, the small courtyard, and I look outward, I don't see any lechi. When I'm in the outer courtyard and I look in, so I see the walls on the side. These are lechis because it's called gefufe. I have the narrowing of the small courtyard and the walls of the larger courtyard. It's actually closed off. So it's true. There's an opening that goes into the smaller courtyard. But nevertheless, I still have the kifufe, which are the end walls, which close off the larger courtyard. So the way it works is that the larger courtyard is considered its own domain, and it does not need an eruv with the chatzar ketana. However, the chatzar ketana, eruv means to put the food out, to put the designate food. But the chatzar ketana is not its own domain because it doesn't really have any line that's marking it off. You see where we're about to get. That we're about to say that I get it from the inside, you don't have a line that's marking the end of this courtyard. But if you go to the outside and you look in, you do have. So that's going to be our issue here. Okay, so it goes like this. The imisa, and if you're going to accept the statement of Reb Chia, the statement of Rabba bar Rav Huna, that a lechi that's visible from the outside is considered a good lechi, so Ketana Nami Tishterei, the small courtyard should be permissible. the Aramaic for mutter is shari. So it's really the shin and the taf at this time. So mutter is merely like mushar, or that's the word shari. Tishtari, it should be permissible. With the logic of that it's visible from the outside, even though it's flush on the inside. That means the small courtyard doesn't have a post in the inside the courtyard that I can see, but if I go outside the little courtyard into the larger courtyard and I look back in, I see the gefufe, those edges of the walls that narrow down the entrance to the smaller courtyard. It should be considered a lechi. I should be allowed to carry in the small courtyard without making an Eruv with the larger courtyard. It should be its own domain. Amar Rab Zera comes along and tells us what we're dealing with. Now we can go back to that picture. Zera teaches us that this case has this detail here that we wouldn't have known. If you look carefully, the inner courtyard is actually the walls of the inner courtyard protruding into the larger courtyard. And therefore, the inner courtyard doesn't have any gefufe, doesn't have anything that's going inward. When I go to the outer courtyard, and I know the outer courtyard has walls that are narrowing down. It's their fourth wall, and then I have the entrance to the.
Is the kufi like a lechi?
Yeah, well, it's the remnants of a wall. The kufi is I have the remnants of that wall, even though there's a big breach in it or it's a doorway.
Well,
The
gimel,
makes.
when it shows their gimel, that's basically like a lechi. Those are two.
So that gimel in this picture is the lechi for the outer.
The outside going in.
For the Chatzah Gedola.
Right.
The problem is that the Chatzah Ketana is not related to that because the walls protrude inward and they go past it. So it's not related to those, that Gimel. All right? Let's see, Gimel stands for Gefufe. It doesn't in this, but here he has a list of things. Okay, let's go a little further. This is a statement of Reb Zera who explains it. So therefore, there's no relationship between the lechi from the outside courtyard, from the Chatzah Gedola to the mavoi, to the inside courtyard, to the area on the inside. Okay, now here, there's a very interesting way of looking at this. You know what? There's two pictures in Rashi that are pretty clear. One picture, you see a Chatzah Gedola and a Chatzah Ketana, you see those words? So it's pretty clear that the Chatzah Ketana, the walls are entering into the Chatzah Gedola, and that fourth wall of the Chatzah Gedola, those little gefufe, those are not related to the end of the wall of the Chatzah Ketana. Now the Gemara is saying, if you look at the next picture where it says Lavud, what the Gemara wants is that where that Gimel is, in our back to our picture here, on the computer, the Gemara wants that the wall of the Chatzah Ketana should be within 3 tvachim of the wall of the Chatzah Gedola, which makes it that even though the back wall is not related to this, but nevertheless the side wall, both walls are very close to each other. And therefore, it's going to be considered the wall itself, or the protrusion of the wall is going to, the extension of the wider courtyard will be considered the lechi. Ignore the back wall. That itself will be considered the lechi for the smaller courtyard. Why don't we say lavud between the two walls, the wall of the inner courtyard and the wall of the outer courtyard? How do you know they're so close? Maybe they're far apart. Maybe the inner courtyard is 5 amas. The outer courtyard is 10 amas. The walls are not connected. It says, Vatani Ravada bar Ravimi Kameda Rab Chanina. It says Rab Chanina bar Papi. The Bach, Ketana B'Yeser, Gedei L'Bachas Esrei. He has a statement, he has a brisa that explains the Mishnah, where he says that the inner courtyard is 10 amas wide. The outer courtyard is 11 amas wide. Now, how big is an amma? 6 tvachim. 6 tvachim means that it's 3 tvachim to each side. Why don't we say lavud? Say lavud. And we should have a lechi there. Why do you tell me that the inner courtyard is usher to carry in unless you make an eruv with the outer courtyard? What do you mean? If I'm outside and I look inside, I see a lechi. It's the edge of the wall connecting to the outer wall, to the wider wall. Ravina gives us an answer. You think everything is going to always fall exactly into place. It didn't fall exactly into place. Yeah, the inner courtyard is 10 and the outer courtyard is 11, but it doesn't mean it's 3 and 3 tvachim on each side because you have an extra 6 tvachim there. What it means is that there's 4 tvachim on one side and it's 2 tvachim on the other side. So like those cities that some cities were built, they knew they were going to build a city, they made streets. And other cities was originally a farm and they didn't, they just end up like another house here, another house there. It ends up, nothing is straight. So, turns out that the way they built this courtyard was must have started with one courtyard, then they built another courtyard on the side and extend, whatever the case is, now it's 4 tvachim on one side, 2 tvachim on the other side. You don't have 2 lechis. I says, well, who needs 2 lechis? So what? One side has 2 tvachim, that's perfect. You only need 1 lechi. Why can't you use the inner courtyard? We have a Mishnah that says the inner courtyard is usher. Why can't you use it? Okay. We're now on top of Daf Yud Amid Aleph. The Gemara says, Rabbi, it's the opinion of Rabbi. Rabbi holds that you need 2 boards, 2 lechis. Pasin means a board, or it means Rabbi holds you need 2 lechis. So that Mishnah is Rabbi. That's how we're going to have to explain this. You only have 1 lechi. We're doing a lot of work to figure out how this is going to fit with the opinion that says Nirmi Bachutz is considered a lechi. We have a Reb Zera that says the walls are protruding, which we did not know that from the Mishnah, that the inner courtyard is going out. We have a Ravina that says, well, we have also a Brisa that says that one is 10 amas, the other one is 11 amas. That explains things. And then we have a Ravina that says that it's not in the center. And then we have to accept that it's Rebbe's opinion that says that you need 2 lechis. Tanya, start in a brisa. The courtyard could be permitted with 1 board at the edge of the open wall. Rabbi says, no, you need 2 boards. Okay. Mar says, hi, my. This what? Let's re-examine this. Let's take the other opinion. Nirmei b'chutz v'shavim b'fnim is not considered a lechi. If you can only see it from the outside and not from the inside, it's not good. Everything fits perfectly. Rabbi Savala Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi holds like Rabbi Yossi, which means that a lechi needs, according to Rabbi Yossi, a lechi needs to be 3 tvachim. Where's that Mishnah? We're going to have it. It's coming up. The lechi needs to be 3 tvachim. You see, what we're trying to do here, we have to figure out a way that the outer courtyard is considered its own rishus. The Chatzar Gedola is considered its own domain. And the Chatzar Ketana is not its own domain. That's what we need. So we need the outer courtyard to have proper lechi. So we'll explain it like this. Rebbe holds like Rabbi Yossi that says that a lechi needs to be 3 tvachim. And the Reb Zera, the Ravina Lessa, let's drop Reb Zera and let's drop Ravina. Let's drop their statements. Reb Zera's statement was that the inner courtyard, that the Chatzar Ketana, the walls of the Chatzar Ketana protrude into the Chatzar Gedola, and they make no connection between the walls of the Chatzar Gedola. We don't need that. And we don't need to say that it's off-centered. We don't need any of that. All we're going to say is like this. Mishum hachi ketana be'aser, u'gedola b'achas asrei. Mishum de Rebbe savala k'Rebbe Yossi. Rebbe holds that I need 2 lechis. The Chatzar Gedola, the larger courtyard, is 1 extra amma than the smaller courtyard. That's why the Chatzar Gedola fits. That's why the Chatzar Gedola is its own rishus, because they have 3 tefachim on each side. And the Chatzar Ketana, we're going to go with the opinion that nira mi bachutz, the shaved mi bifnim. If it's flush on the inside and on the outside you could see that it's a lechi, it doesn't count. That's why the Chatzar Ketana works. So in other words, the combination of the Mishnah and the Brisa. If I just take the Tanaic sources, I have a Mishnah that says Chatzar Ketana is not accepted to carry in, and the Chatzar Gedola is accepted. And I combine with that the size of it from another brisa that says that the inside is 10 and the outside in the larger courtyard is 11, then I can say that it's going according to the opinion of Rabbi Yossi that I need 3 tefachim on each lechi. And it's perfect. But if you go with the opinion, which was the opinion of Rabbi Baravuna and the opinion of Rabbi Chia, that if you can see it from the outside, it's considered a post. Even if you can't see it from the inside. Reb Zera de Ravina Isa. Now we have to come up with this story that the walls of the smaller courtyard are protruding into the larger courtyard. And I have to also say Ravina's story that it's off-centered. Rebbe lo savala k'Reb Yossi. I have to say that Rebbe does not hold of Reb Yossi. Why? How is the outer courtyard permitted? I don't have 3 tefachim on one side. I have 2 tefachim on one side. I need 3 tefachim according to Rebbe Yossi. So, if that's the case, if Rebbe doesn't hold of Rebbe Yossi, then why do you need Gedola B'achas Asri Lamali? Why do you need it to be 1 extra amma? If Rebbe held of Rebbe Yossi, then I understand why you need the brisa to tell me that it's 1 amma larger, because 1 amma larger means 6 tefachim divided in half is 3 tefachim on one side, 3 tefachim on the other side. Now that's very significant, because Rebbe holds of Rebbe Yossi, I need a lechi to be 3 tefachim. But if Rebbe doesn't hold of Rebbe Yossi anyway, and what's my proof? Because the Gedola is permitted, and I'm accepting Ravina that says that it's off-centered. So Rebbe can't hold like Rebbe Yossi. How is the Gedola permitted? I don't have 2 lechis of 3 tefachim, 1 lechi of 4 and 1 of 2. Now, why'd I have to do that? Was because I wanted to say why the Ketana was not permitted. Okay, so good, you gain that the Ketana is not permitted. But how is the Gedola permitted? Well, then I'm going to have to drop Rebbe Yossi. So then why did you have to have a brisa that tells me that it's exactly 1 amma more if you don't have Rebbe Yossi? It could be any size. Are you trying to permit the Gedola? If you're trying to tell me that the Chatzar Gedola is permitted to carry in because it's ownership, if you don't hold like Rebbe Yossi, then I don't need the larger courtyard to be an amma larger. It would be 2 tefachim larger. Because it's only Rebbe Yossi that says that a lechi needs to be 3 tefachim, which means an amma, because I would need 2 lechis. But if I don't hold of Rebbe Yossi, then it could be just a tefach. Now Tosfos over here says it's lav dafka. It could even be a mashal. It could even be a string, a post, a little beam. It doesn't need to be really a tefach. It's a lav dafka, a tefach. But whatever the case is, it doesn't need to be an amma. It doesn't need to be an extra amma. The ilam misrig lektana kaasi lashminan the mefalgi tuva. If you're coming to tell me that the inner one is aser, could even be much larger. How would it be larger? If you're coming to tell me that the large courtyard is permissible, then it would only need to be 2 tvachim, because we don't hold like Rabbi Yossi. Il Misri L'Ktana, if you're coming to tell me that the inner one is Aser, Il Misri Ktana, Kasi Lashminan, Mefalgi Tuva. The inner one is Aser, even if it's more. Yeah, what's going to happen is, the inner one is going to be Aser. Why is the inner one Aser? According to this, because I need to accept the opinion of Reb Zera that the wall of the inner courtyard is protruding into the larger courtyard. I'm going to have to accept the Ravina that it's not within 3 tvachim of both. So if that's the case, why do you have to tell me that it's just 1 amma more? Then you have to make up that it's off-centered. Asking on the Brisa that says that it's 1 amma larger. Say it's 10 ammas larger, the outer courtyard. It's all not necessary. The main thing is that I don't have lavud, and the inside is aser. Could even be larger than that. It's always going to be aser, the inside, even though ner b'chutz v'shavim v'fnim is considered. But I have to come up with a case where it's not lavud. So why does the Brisa need to be so specific that it's an amma more if I'm not accepting Rabbi Yossi? Elav shema mina, it must be that ner b'chutz v'shavim v'fnim ain't needed mishum lechi. It must be that it's not a lechi. If you can only see it from the outside, then it fits perfectly. Now, the outer one is considered, the outer courtyard, the Chatzah Gedola is considered its own domain because it has gefufei, it's closed off. And we follow Rabbi Yossi that each one is 3 tvachim. It's perfect. Shema mina. Okay. So that was the question that Rabbah asked on Rabba bar Ravuna. Rabba bar Ravuna says that if you can see the lechi from the outside, it's acceptable. Rabba asked this question on it from the Mishnah, a combination of a Mishnah and a Brisa. The Mishnah is that the inner courtyard and an inner courtyard and an outer courtyard, that the outer courtyard is permissible, the larger one is permissible, the inner one not. And the Brisa that says how much larger it is, only 1 amma larger, that tells me that Nir Mibachutz V'Shavim B'Fnim is not considered a lechi. That's the question on it. So Amar Rabbi Yossi Leishmiel Yashmait. So Rabbi Yossi said, I never heard this statement from Rabba or Rabba bar Ravuna. Amalei Abaya Atamrit Nalan. You were the one that told it to us. Now remember, Rabbi Yosef forgot his learning, and whatever it was, some illness or something, he forgot his learning. And Abaya, his student, would remind him of what he taught, and he would tell him things that you taught it to us, and not only that, but you even commented. And you even commented on it the following. If I have a lechi that continues on, one wall of the mavi stops early, and the lechi continues on. We've seen pictures like that. I want to show another one. Here we would see this picture right here, picture 120. This is a lechi that's moishech in defani shel mavi. Now, what that means is that actually one wall of the mavi does continue. But over here, I have a lechi that continues. Now, this is clearly only nira mibachutz, right? It's only nira mibachutz. Okay, let's take a look what the Gemara says. So if that lechi is pachis midaled amas, if that protruding post is under 4 amas, then it could be considered as a lechi. Nida mishum lechi, mashtam mishum chudei pnimi. But I can only use up until the inner wall, the inner edge of it. I can't go all the way to the outer edge. Can't go all the way. I can only go to that line right there. Across. Right? I can't take it all the way to the edge of the mavi, because he holds that the inner edge of the lechi is where I can go. But however, if this lechi is daled amas, then neither mishum mavi, then that's not even a lechi anymore. That's just a regular mavi, because daled amas is already considered a mavi. And I cannot use the entire mavi because this is a mavi without a lechi, and it's a mavi with another mavi at the end, but it's not a lechi at the end. And Abaya tells to Rabbi Yosef that you said on this, or you, Rabbi Yosef, you commented on this Shema Mina Tlas, that from this statement we see 3 things. First of all, Shema Mina Bein Lechiyayim also, that you can't use the area in between the lechis. All right? Shema Mina, we also heard that Meshech Mavi is Ba'arba, that the length of a Mavi is 4 amas. That's why if it's 4 amas, you can't use it. Shema Mina, we also learned from the Ner Mi B'chutz V'Shav Mi B'Pnim Nid Mishum Lechi. If it's recognizable from the outside, but not from the inside, which that was that case, because in the inside it was flush together with the wall, it's considered a lechi. Like Reb Chia taught, like Rabbi Baruch Huna taught, even though we had a kash on it.
Naftali's question then still stands. How does it
work?
How's it helping if you're seeing it from outside and it's supposed to be for the people on the inside?
Right. Unless we say that it has to do with creating a rishus.
But the guy in the inside doesn't know that.
He doesn't know that, but maybe he doesn't have to know. Maybe it's just what the area becomes, what the muffin becomes.
Carried by accident.
Yeah, if you say that
if
you say that the lechi is to tell you where to stop, then you're right. You have no idea. But if you say that it does something to the mavoi by closing it off, so even though you don't see it, but the area becomes a rishus hayachid, even midrabanan or something, so then that would help. But I hear, it's only going to work one way. So the Gemara concludes. Daniel, you with us? You want to say something?
Yeah. I was just going to say, the article does have a note about that Naftali's question.
Okay.
It says that it's a debate. It says when we're talking about the Korah on Ches Amud basis, where one view requires the reminder to be for the people in the Mavoi, and another view requires the reminder to be for the people in the Rosh Hashanah. It says to see the Gaon Yaakov on it. That it's not a.
We did have, that's right. Regarding the Korah, we did have a discussion if it was Hetera Milabar or Hetera Milgav. We did have that.
It says there should apparently be no difference between a Korah and a Lechi in this regard.
Oh, interesting. Okay. It doesn't help us, because what would the point be for Milbar? What's the point of people outside seeing? They're not carrying anyway. Okay, the Gemara says, the Gemara concludes that that's the halacha, that if you can see it from the outside, it's considered a lechi. Exactly what Naftali didn't want to hear. That's the halacha. And the Gemara asks the question, well, you had a kasha before, you had a huge question on that. You had a whole combination with the Brisa and the Mishnah and everything. And we said it doesn't fit if you want to say that. The Gemara says, it's a kasha, but the halacha is like that anyway. Why? Because there's a Brisa from Reb Chia. And therefore that's the halacha, even though we have a question on it. Yeah, that's what it says in Shulchan Aruch as well. Okay, now we go Varachav Mi'asir Amas Yimayit. If a mavi is wider than 10 amas, then you have to narrow it in. narrow it down. Amar Abaya. Abaya says, Tana was said in a brisa, Baruch of Nesirama, Simayet, Rabbi Yehuda Tzorch Mayet. Rabbi Yehuda says you don't have to. Rabbi Yehuda in general, he said even if it's higher, the height is above 20 amas, he said you don't have to lower it down. If it's wider than 10 amas, he says you don't have to make it more narrow. He says it could be wider. Vad kama, well, how wide can it be? Savar Rabachi, Kamed Rabbi Yosef Lamema, Rabachi thinks, or he attempts to say in front of Rabbi Yosef, Ad Shalish Esrei Yama, until 13 amas, Ushlish, 13 and a third. That sounds like a random number. 13 and a third amas, that's how the Machlekes Tanakam and Rabbi Yehuda is 10 amas according to Tanakam, and 13 and a third according to Rabbi Yehuda. This is what he wants to say. The Kalvachemer Pasibi Reis. There's a Kalvachemer from Pasibi Reis. Pasibi Reis, I'll show you the picture and then we'll see from there what's going on. What happened is people would travel to Yerushalayim and they would have to stay places over Shabbos, and they would need to get water for themselves and for the animals. Well, there was a well. Problem is, for themselves, they can sort of like climb over and lean over and drink from the well. But how do they get to the animals? So what they said was they have a leniency. They put up these boards, these pasim are boards, around the well, and they're basically corners. Put up these four corners, and then that makes the inner area to be a Rishus HaYachid, and they can take water out and the animals can drink. Now, the length in between these corners was 13 and a third amas. And the reason for that is because they wanted to be able to for 8 animals to fit in, 2 groups of 4 animals to fit in side by side. So how do you get to that? So each animal is 1 2/3 of an amma. Yes, an amma 4 tvach. 1 2/3 of an amma. So if you do the calculations, 8 times 5/3, 1 2/3. 8 times 5/3, it's up to 40, which ends up being 13 and a third, right? 39. It would be 13 times 3, so it's 13 and a third amas. So, yeah, excellent. Ravachi says, we'll learn from Pasibi Reis. Over there, it could be 13 and a third amas in between the corners. Here as well. And he has a Kalvachemer as well. Pasibi Reis, Pasibi Reis, there's a lot more open space than there is closed walls. Paratz is the open space. There's more open space than Oimeg, than standing walls. But nevertheless, but even there where you're so lenient, you didn't allow anything more than 13 and a third. A mavoi that needs to be mostly closed off. It's logical. Over there, you need to have, it needs to be surrounded by 3 walls. For sure, you shouldn't be allowed to have an opening more than 13 and a third. If where we're lenient, we don't let you have more than 13 and a third. Where we're strict, for sure, we shouldn't allow 13 and a third. The Gemara says 1 second. That's not a good Kal V'chaim. That's a reason exactly the opposite. Possibly, because over there we were so lenient, so therefore, so we don't let you take it more than 13 and a third. But by a mavoi, an alleyway, where you have to have mostly walls, so maybe we could be lenient over there because you have to have the extra walls. So the opening could be more than 13 and a third. Because how do you know that the leniency, that the strictness of 13 and a third is associated with the leniency? Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe because you're more lenient, we had to put on a stringency. But really, it could be if you don't have the leniency of Paratz Merubah alignment, then you don't need that stringency of 13 and a third. Maybe it could be much more. Maybe you could say the other way. Possibly, right? The kaltabu chad kula, akabu kula achrina. Mavi klal klalai. Maybe Hasibi Rais, because we're lenient, we let you get to 13 and a third. But Mavi, we don't have Paratz Murbalayimid. We don't even let you get to 13 and a third. Maybe it can't even be till that much. Basically, what the Gemara is saying, you can't learn anything from Hasibi Rais. That has its own set of laws. So we're left with the question, what is the limit to Rabbi Yehuda? Tani Levi, Mavi Shurach of Esther Mama, Levi taught, we don't have an answer for it. Levi taught that if I have a Mavi that's very wide, I put a stick in the center of the entranceway, and then that's enough. What did I gain? I divided the Mavi in half. It used to be 20 amas. Put a stick in the center. It's only 10 on this side and 10 on that side, which is the limit of a Mavi, which is good. He taught this, but then he comes along and he says, but we don't pass it like that. He says this was a statement, but it's not the Ikad Amri. This is going back to what we said before, that maybe Reb Chia taught it, but he doesn't hold of it. So we have it twice in one day. So Ikad Amri Amar Shmuel Mishmei de Levi and Allah Mishnah. Some say that it was Shmuel that's taught in the name of Levi. Levi was a student of Rebbe. That we don't pass like that Mishnah. So what should you do if you have an alleyway that's too wide? Shmuel Mishmei de Levi. So Shmuel says the name of Levi. He says, what you should do is like this. You should take not a stick, because the problem with the stick in the center, Rashi says, the Asi at the bottom, Rashi on Yudam and Aleph, that the ear of this side and the ear of that side will be mevatel the kana. The empty space will turn it into nothing. It does nothing. It's so overwhelmed by empty space, by the open area, that kana doesn't divide them up. So he says what you should do is you should take a board that's 10 tefachim high, 4 amas long, a piece of plywood, and you put it down the center of the mother. Let's do the picture. Wrote down it's picture 123. Let's go to that. 123. You see that over here? Here's the mavi. It's too wide. So I put it 10 tvachim high, 4 amas long, and it divides it down the center. Okay. Taisvis over here says that we have a little problem with this, with the mavi like this. Why? What did I just do? I have 2 mavis. Taisvis says, no, you don't. You have one mavi that's akum. It's a mavi akum like a ches, which we had before. And a mavi, why? Because I enter into one side and I turn around and I come out the other side. That's a mavi akum like a ches. Now we had a machlekes Rav and Shmuel. What's that considered? Now Shmuel said that it's considered closed off. Okay, but it could be that if the back area is larger than 10 amas, then even according to Shmuel, it's not closed off. I would need a tzuras pesach on the back. Remember, we said on the akmi musay, you have to put a tzuras pesach. We learned before, so that's why Taisus has this picture. There's this picture here of a tzuras pesach on the back. Okay, whatever the case is, this is the solution that we're getting from Shmuel in the name of Levi, that you put a board down the center which divides it in half. Now the Ritva learns not like Taisus. He says you're not dividing the mavi in half. That's not what you're doing. You're just dividing the entranceway in half. It's one mavi, which the entranceway is smaller. So that way you don't have to view it as a mavi yakum and all of that. It's not 2 mavis or one mavi that's turning around. It's really one mavi. It's just with a smaller entranceway. Now, inami or else Rav Yehuda. There's another solution. A solution of Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says. Shmuel can't be saying this because Rav Yehuda is a student of Shmuel. He says mavi sherachav 15 amma. A mavi that is 15 amas wide, marchik shtei amas. So on one wall, what I do is, I have 5 extra amas here. I have to get rid of 5 amas. So I can use the lovud concept, and I can take a board and put it Marchik shtei amas, v'esapas shalish amas. I moved 2 amas away from the wall, and I put a board of 3 amas there. And that's considered like I have 5 amas closed off. And now I'm left with a mavi that's 10 amas. That's a solution. We're trying to use the least amount of wood as possible, or whatever material it is. So that would work. When I asks, why do you have to do that? I have an easier way. Yase pas ama umechza, yarchik shtei amas. Yase pas ama umechza. You can put 1 board of 1.5 amas against the wall, leave a space of 2 amas, and put another board of 1.5 amas, and you can use, it's still the same amount of wood, still 3 amas of wood, but it's divided in half. Maybe you didn't have it that 2 beams, maybe you didn't have 1 large 3 amma thing. Maybe you could do it like that. Why didn't it say that? Shma mina, you see from this, that what's gonna happen is I'm gonna have, if I do it like that, I don't have 3 amas, and the space in the middle is 2 amas. And my whole board is only 1.5 amma. What's going to be is comes out. Why didn't you give me that option? Because if I have airspace on both sides, I have more. Meruba ala parats. Shtei ruches. Is that what it's supposed to be? Meruba ala parats. How does it translate it over there? Is that it sounds like I have parats meruba ala imid. See if there's a comment there. Shmamina, we see from this, because he didn't suggest this possibility, that both sides of the breach, it is not considered. Only one combines the standing segments from the 2 directions, i.e. both sides of the breach. It is not considered as a standing segment was created. Oh. I need to combine it from 2 sides to make it considered Ayman Mirubala Paratz. That's what he's saying. It's really, right now, it's Paratz Mirubala Ayman, because I have 2 tvachim in the center, which is larger than 1.5 tvachim. So how do I get it? I have to combine Ayman Meruba. I have to combine the Aymans together to get it larger than 2 tvachim, because each board was only 1.5. So I have to combine them together. It must be that combining them together doesn't help. So the Gemara says, it's not so. It could be that really it does help. If that would be the whole wall, 5 amas. The whole entrance. The problem over here is Vishani Hachadasi Avira the Haigis of Avira the Haigis of Avatla. Over here, I have 10 amas right outside of this. That's my problem. I have 10 amas on one side. I have 2 amas on the other side. And those 2 are going to nullify the 1.5. The combination of 10 and 2 is going to. So the Gemara says, Vyasa pas amma. Why don't we do it like this? Make a board of 1 amma, the yarchik amma. Then you leave a distance of 1 amma. The yasapas amma. And then you put another board. You're holding by 3 amas already. The yarchik amma. Then you leave a space. That's 4 amas. The yasapas amma, and then you make another board. So you have 3. This would be like a picket fence. But you have 3 boards with 2 amas in the center. That's a total of 5 amas, and you've narrowed down your mavi. Shema mina oimet kaparatz aser. What's the problem? That those 2 boards that are in the center, they have the same amount of open space as the sides of them. Why didn't Rabbi Yehuda say you can do that? It must be that because it's the same amount of open space, it's aser. When it says Laila Me'melach mutter, I could say that it's really mutter, but you're ignoring an important point over here, that the rest of the entranceway is open. It's 10 amas on the other side. V'shani hachad asi avir the haigis, or the airspace from one side, and the airspace from the other side, even though one is only one amma, but the other side is 10 ammas. From Mavatale, it's going to nullify it. The Gemara says, V'yarchik amma, v'yasapas amma mechza. Why don't you do it with 1.5 ammas, 1 amma away from the wall? V'yarchik amma, then you make another distance of an amma, v'yasapas amma mechza. And then you make another board of 1.5. What you're gaining over here is that one side is 10 ammas, that's true, but the other side is smaller than the board. My board is 1.5 amma. Next to the board, to one side, is only 1 amma. So the open space is smaller on one side than my actual board. You're right, you could have done that. But the Rabbanan weren't Mashiachim like that. The Gemara says, maybe he's going to not use the big doorway, he's going to use the small entranceway, he's going to walk through those breaks, the 2 amma break in the 5 ammas that are on the side. We have a chazaka, people don't do that. They have big entranceway, they're not going to walk through the small one. We had a story earlier in the Gemara where Rabami and Rabasi said if there's a breach in the side wall, we had a concern that people are going to use that breach. It says, Hassam, over there, you were gaining because you could cut off a corner and you could walk in by avoiding a corner. That you were gaining, it was a shorter walk. But over here, you're not gaining anything. You have one entranceway on the same side. You're going to walk through the bigger entranceway rather than the smaller one. Okay, let's leave it over here.